Alrighty, so it's time to do the season preview of your free time wooden spoon winner. That is FC Cincinnati. And if you talk to any Cincinnati fans, I don't think that's something that they're going to be very proud of, saying that they are the winner of three straight wooden spoon and become the league first team ever to achieve that mark. But that's what happened when last season they posted one of the worst record and one of the worst points total in league history with just 20 points and a record of 4-8 and 22. They scored 37 goals last season, but they gave up 74 goals last season, which is one of the worst in MLS. And I think it only was one fewer than what happened in 2020, or not in 2020, but in 2019, when they gave up like 75 goals in their inaugural season, and their goal differential is the worst at -37. And as I mentioned, they finished with a wooden spot for the third straight year in a row. And the last season, I mean, I don't really need to mention where they finished. I mean, it's pretty much dead last every single season. The only difference is the fact that, with 2021, there was one extra team in the league. That's why they finished 14, and the same goes with 2020. One extra team coming in the East. I mean, it just gotten worse and worse with the way that it seems like with every team coming into the league, and since they finished in dead last, that's the reason why it seemed like the result is worse and worse every year. Now, in terms of some of the transfer that they made, they actually have been very busy in terms of the transfer market. Though I will say that despite the fact that they've been busy in the transfer market, it's not any marquee signing that you would expect that this team would replace. I mean, we knew that this team was probably going to get rid of their old core, and most of the players that is out of this team are kind of part of the old core, and that this is them just kind of trying to blow it up. But then you also see some players on the out list that rarely get any minutes with this team, and it's no surprise that they were let go by FC Cincinnati. But the team, or not the team, but the players that they bought in terms of transfer market include Don Baji, John Nelson, Alvis Powell, Alec Khan, Nick Maritic, Ian Murphy, and Roman Celestino from the Super Draft. And then, of course, they brought Ray Gaddis back from his retirement and decided to come out of retirement and play for FC Cincinnati. And again, the only reason why Ray Gaddis decided to come out of his retirement and play for another team besides the Philadelphia Union is that Union connection that you see in the front office and also in the head coach. I mean, it's pretty obvious that FC Cincinnati, what they're trying to do is that they're trying to copy the Union way. They're trying to copy what made the Philadelphia Union success and hope that of course, would work out. And usually when you decide to kind of copy a team's formula, I mean, it's not a bad thing to do. Like, if one team is successful, we've seen the Union has become a very successful team in the Eastern Conference. You want to find ways, and you maybe kind of take notes in terms of trying to play almost in their same style, or even sign players that is kind of similar in their style to get yourself to be a better team. But sometimes when you pretty much try to copy everything a team does, it doesn't always turn out to be good. And it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to work out for this Cincinnati team heading into this season. But in terms of player that is leaving this team, we got Florian Valot, who I can't believe he was actually an FC Cincinnati player last season, because I didn't even realize that. I mean, I realized that he went to Cincinnati, but he didn't really feature a lot for this team. And I think mainly is it because of injuries, or the fact that he just weren't able to get in this team. I mean, I know he did suffer a big injury when he was doing his time with the Red Bulls, suffered a torn ACL, but it's kind of surprised how he didn't really get any minutes for Cincinnati, and now he's going to be going to the USL Championship, that is Miami FC. And then you got Caleb Stanko, that, despite being a deaf player, he was able to get a move to Europe by joining PAS Gdynia in the Greek Super League. Then you got Michael Vanderver, one of the most disappointing signing for FC Cincinnati. I mean, there's just so many disappointing signing in FC Cincinnati that I'm not even going to say this is the most disappointed, but certainly this is one of them, because there was a lot of big things that people said that he's going to do well for the Cincinnati team, especially in the midfield, and he turns out to be a huge flop, and now he's going to be going back to his native country, Netherlands, joining PEC as well. Then you got Ben Lund going to Phoenix Union. Camilo Mukochu. again, I probably just absolutely butchered that name. He's one of the numerous list of players that is currently a free agent and were not part of the or not sign a new contract, and part of players that had their contract decline during the end of season roster move. Other players include Joe Jam, Shimisawa Titan, Edgar Castillo, Jonas Frenchberg, Evan Flanagan, and Chris Duval. Although Chris Duval actually announces his retirement, so yeah, he doesn't count. But all those other guys, of course, had their contract decline when Cincinnati made their end of season roster move, and all these guys are still currently free agent. And then you got Gustavo Vallecilla, played one season for Cincinnati. I thought he was okay last year with this team. I mean, I understand why they signed up to bring him back, because they think that his upside isn't as much as what they think it would, to basically buy him outright. So now he's going to be going back to the club that he was on loan with, which is SD Arquez. Now, optimism for this FC Cincinnati team. I said same as the Houston Dynamo, because it's pretty much the same thing where, they have a new GM and a new head coach. The only difference, I think, between them and the Dynamo is that at least they don't have like a new ownership. I believe their ownership is still the same, despite the fact that they definitely went on a firing spree in terms of the front office, and then, of course, the head coaching role. But getting Pat Nolan from the Philadelphia Union and getting Chris Albright from the Union front office does give fans a little bit of optimism that this team is not going to aim for a wooden spoon finish once again, because they are coming from a team that has a winning culture, and hopefully that they will, of course, embed it into this team when they, of course, arrive in this team. Surely they can't be the worst team in MLS 4 years in running. Like, I mean, I know I said the same thing last season. Like I said, there's no way this team is going to win the wooden spoon for the third year in a row. And early on, they kind of show that promise of a team that looks like they're not going to win the wooden spoon. Like, in fact, they even show some promise that they could be a playoff team. And then the second half of the season began, and the second half of the season, boy oh boy, it was miserable. Like, they just, not only they fall off a cliff, but they basically was just losing every single game. And it's just getting to a point where I kind of had to kind of go hard on them a little bit, or give them a little hard time by saying they're the free points for it. Like, they're the Christmas present or the Santa Claus of MLS, with the way that they're just giving free points every single team that play against them, and they're just also kind of just a push over in MLS. So yeah, that obviously didn't work out, but I'm gonna keep that optimism this year with the way that things are gonna be different, and that at least this time they are gonna be well coached, and especially their front office is gonna make some more smart signings to get this team to be a team that's not going to win the wooden spoon. I mean, I do highly rate it that Pat Nolan is going to do well, even though I know he hasn't got a lot of MLS experience. But we've seen before where coaches know MLS experience, and they turns out to do well. Like guys like Robin Fraser and Wilfred Nancy, guys that are young head coach that don't have a lot of MLS experience, but they were able to guide their team to a decent finish in their first season in charge. Now, concern for this FC Cincinnati team. So, obviously, the big concern with this team is that there's no doubt this team doesn't have the talent to compete for the playoffs. But what is also kind of concern for this team is, despite the fact that, they made a lot of signing to trying to improve their team, none of them are really big name signing. Like, Don Baji from the Rapids. I mean, I know Baji kind of had his redemption arc during the Rapids, scoring a lot of goals and looked like the Don Baji that we saw in his first stints with the Colorado Rapids. But do you think he's going to be the guy that's going to help you on the attack? John Nelson, yeah, he's an okay goalkeeper, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be battling with Alec Khan for that number one position in terms of the goalkeeper. Alvis Powell, I'm kind of surprised they bought him back, knowing the fact that he was terrible in his first stint with FC Cincinnati, and now he's back with this team, and it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to do. With the draft picks, we'll see how they, of course, will do well. It's kind of interesting the fact that with the way that this team wants to envision themselves being like a union run kind of team. It's interesting that they even consider draft pick as as an asset, because we know one thing about the Philadelphia Union is that they don't care about the super draft. Like, you've seen it many times where they just give super draft away like it's Christmas present, and they usually get a lot of money out of it because they know that they of course have the academy to basically put a lot of young guys to this team and still be decent, and that they don't really need to rely on the super draft on it. But other than that, you got Ray Gaddis coming out of retirement. We'll see how he's going to do, since this is his first time back in playing in competitiveness for the first time in 2 years, and usually that does take a while for guys to get going. But I think that maybe is kind of the only signing that I would say that it's decent. And other than that, it's still kind of the same roster that finished dead last season. So I can understand why maybe some Cincinnati fans are not optimistic in terms of what I say. Surely they can't be the finish as the worst team in MLS 4 years running. Well, when you have almost the same team and you didn't really add a lot of players to kind of replace those guys, or at least improve your team, there could be a chance that they could be the laughing stock of MLS once again. The back line is still the same. Again, this goes back to of the way that the roster is pretty much the same, but it's the fact that the back line is still the same, and this is the same back line that gave up 74 goals. Yeah, that's kind of a concerning factor, and I won't be surprised they're going to be a team that's going to be giving up a lot of goals again, because as long as you don't make some reinforcements that back line that gave up the most goal in MLS, then yeah, don't expect things are going to be dramatic different, unless if some of those players in that back line is going to have a much decent season. And then of course the other concern with Cincinnati fans is that there are going to be more heartbreak in 2022. Although I will say that with the heartbreaks that they suffer, and how last season it just feels like every single game they always find ways to lose one. I don't think it's going to be the same thing. I feel like this year surely there's going to be a time where they're going to kind of move out of the habit of always find ways to lose a game, no matter how comfortable they're in terms of the possession that they are during the game. So yeah, I think maybe that shouldn't be kind of a concern, but I can understand why some Cincinnati fans are concerned about that, because they're ready for it. And I also would say that maybe some Cincinnati fans aren't even going to be heartbroken if their team lose in a tough way, because they're probably used to it after what happened last season, where it was heartbreak after heartbreak every single week. Now, in terms of the MVP of this team, it's pretty obvious. It's got to be Lucho Acosta. He is literally the best player on this team, and he's literally the player that we saw last season. He basically work his hearts out, and every single week, no matter how bad this team is, he always find ways to trying to carry this team. And there's times where he has shown that brilliance, and have shown that amazing skill that he had during his time with DC United and back in 2018. But unfortunately, there's the reason why soccer is basically a team sport, and you just simply cannot have just one guy just simply carry your team. And even though I know Acosta is a number 10, I mentioned how big that number 10 position is in the game, and especially going forward on the attack, where if you have a decent number 10, you always have a good chance to win games. And I think the Cincinnati team can definitely do so, because they do have that number 10 in Lucho Acosta, but it's all about who else is around him and his supporting cast that is just kind of let him down time after time again. And if those supporting cast that he has started to pick up again, then there's no doubt that you could say maybe the Cincinnati team, especially on the attack, could be a little bit more dangerous than we've seen in previous year. And but speaking of those supporting casts, the comeback player is one of those supporting casts, and that of course is Brenner. Now, I don't think Brenner had a bad season last year. I know a lot of people call him a flop last season, but when you look at his stats, it's not too bad. But I will say that because they pay him $15 million, and when you have that big of a price tag, you're expected to score at least 10 or 15 goals and supposed to compete for the Golden Boot. And the fact that he was nowhere near that in terms of competing for the Golden Boot, but was actually really close in terms of breaking the double-digit mark, means that I don't think it was as bad as some people label him. I would also say that last season, there's times where if he would have just finished some of his chances, because I thought last season there's times where he had tons of chances or to score a goal in a game, and he just aren't able to do so. And in other words, his finishing is still lacking. Though I will say that, you know, since he is still relatively a young guy, and when you're a young player, you know, you're still learning in the game, and that, you know, eventually I expect that if Brenner can continue to work on his finishing and especially his composure, then there's no doubt that I think he can be worth the 15 million that they pay him, because he has talent. Like he does have potential to be that, and if he can fulfill that potential, then yeah, I think he could be worth the $15 million, which is also kind of a reason why I chose him as the comeback player, because, you know, he has 1 year to his stomach all the bad misses that he has, and I expect this year it's going to be a breakout year for him. Now, expectation for this Cincinnati team, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Not finish last again. Like, I'm pretty much every Cincinnati fans are begging this team to not finish last again, because they just want to have one season where they're not considered the laughing stock of MLS. Like I think this team and this fan base has probably the lowest expectation out of any fan base in MLS right now, where they just want them to get out of dead last, because it's just been a miserable first 3 year for this team, and that, you know, for a fan base that has really supported this team, and that, you know, I've mentioned many times before how much no matter how bad this team is, at least their fans still kind of show up day in day out. I just feel like I feel like this fan base deserves to see a team that doesn't finish last every single season. So that's obviously the big expectation coming into this season, that is not to finish in the wooden spoon spot once again, and then make some progress on this deep rebuild. I mean, there's no doubt that I think this is now their third try in terms of getting to build a decent squad and start a rebuild. I mean, the first rebuild obviously fell after that disastrous expansion season, and then the second rebuild was last season. It ended even worse. So this is the third time that they're trying to go for this deep rebuild, but this is the first time that they have Chris Albright as their GM to lead in terms of this rebuild. So yeah, I think is another thing that could be a little bit optimistic if you're a Cincinnati fan, where you're going to have someone new and someone more competent in terms of how to build a team, compared to the last GM that just it feels like he didn't know what he was doing in terms of trying to build a decent team in MLS. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're a Cincinnati fans, what is your optimism, your concern, and most importantly, your expectation coming into this season. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.